So we just have one loan request on the agenda, and I'm going to just review it really quickly and then let her talk about the project. It's for the Treehouse Child Care Center to purchase a new property and renovations. This would be a participation loan with Watertown Savings Bank. The amount being requested is $236,080. Will be a 20-year fixed, 20-year amortization at a 6% fixed interest rate. And I will let her take over because I know you have something to get to after this. So.
Yeah, my son's recorder concert.
Oh my gosh, I loved those.
Actually, I went to my niece's ukulele concert last night, so apparently it's
That's
a good
fun.
year for all of us.
That's fun. Well, I don't know, you probably had kids in your house practicing the recorder.
Yeah.
I love it. That's great.
It's great.
Yeah, so the purpose, so what we're doing is the building that we want to acquire, it's actually like a stone's throw from where we're at on Ohio Street, so it's not far. And the intention is that we would be turning part of it into an infant toddler space. Our infant toddler wait list is huge. Like, we've got a lot of families on our wait list. I know infant toddler care is really hard to come by. So it would be either an infant or toddler, or sometimes like it's called a continuity of care room. We modeled that room a year or two ago when we first bought our building on Ohio Street. And so it was the first time we ever licensed a continuity of care room, and it worked. And we're like, okay, we can use this model elsewhere. So basically the intention is to open up infant toddler space, but the other part of that intention is that 30% of those slots would be slots for our staff kids, which helps in two ways. One, just like any other employer, sometimes it's hard to get staff if they don't have childcare, right? So, and we do employ a lot of mothers. And two, there's a tax credit for New York State. So if you can open up more childcare space as an employer, then you can write off the costs of operating that space. So we modeled that when we purchased our Ohio Street building, and at the time we were holding over 2 locations, so we did 30% of the kids in that building were staff kids, so we're able to write off our operating costs with that tax credit. There's a New York State tax credit and a federal tax credit, but it's not a refundable. The federal one's not refundable, but it's still a tax credit, so it's 25%. And then the New York State one is a 50% one, and it's refundable. So when I gave you my financials, that the operating cost of just doing the continuity of care classroom in that building, it's actually negative income on a monthly basis, but then when you factor in the tax credit, it's a positive revenue stream. So that's basically our intention, is to basically have that one room, and that's our building that we're operating as far as opening infant toddler space and put staff kids there. And then the other part of the building would be admin space. So not really revenue stream, but we are trying to make some moves towards potentially adding in some special education stuff, which would mean we would need space to house our therapists. And so that's kind of, that part of the building would be that. But I basically gave you the numbers based on like worst case scenario for the income. And then, yeah, I think your question was the first year the tax credit's higher, and that's because we're writing off the cost of renovating the building. So you can write off costs for renovations, the purchase of the building, what you need to equip the building.
And they'll reimburse you for that. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why these are declining.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So the first year it would be basically, so our goal is to get up and running by the end of this year. So then when we do taxes for this year, we can write that off. Yep. Yep. And then going forward, it's the operating costs.
So you'll have 2 campuses if this goes through. The current one you have, and then this one you're looking to acquire. Okay. All right. And so to do that, you only need to add 3 new headcount staff?
So, because it's just the one classroom, and I think it's 3 to run the classroom. 3 full-time. Oh, this is, let's see. 3 full-time, and then I've got another admin that's like a 10 hours a week. I didn't even really put them in there, but to help close the building. But basically it's 3 full-time staff
Okay,
to run that classroom.
okay.
Yeah.
Because payroll only goes up by about 16K between years 1 and year 3.
Yeah, I think I just did a percentage increase.
Oh, so the new jobs are added in year 1, and then the year 2 and year 3 are reflective of like COLAs?
Yes,
Oh,
the
gotcha.
increase, yeah, because I
Thank you.
only did the financials for this building alone, just so you can see the,
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah,
thought this
yeah,
reflected.
yeah.
Okay.
It's not the
It
other
doesn't really-
location, I
okay.
feel like it just gets
Yeah.
convoluted when you mix
Okay.
everything in.
Understood.
So, yeah,
So this income we're seeing for year-to-date 25, does that represent just the first quarter, or what's the defined period for,
It went to May 31st.
oh, so that's May 31st?
I believe.
Okay.
Correct. It was to May 30, I believe that was the date on it.
I don't have those ones in front of me, I have my own brain.
Yeah.
that's
But
okay.
the
I'm
tax credit normally
95%
comes
sure.
in May, so I think that's where I
Okay,
reflected the tax credit was in May.
I'll find it.
so do you project your full year 2025 to be greater than what you did in 2024?
Let me think for a second, 2024.
You can, here, you
I
can
would
look at
say-
these numbers.
No, I'm just thinking off the top of my head because it gets weird,
Well, no, flip it
because,
right over, right on the bottom there. See your 24 number?
Yeah. Oh, and here, this is a little adjusted because
Right.
they had some.
Oh,
So this is different.
yeah, I saw that,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then, that
He
one,
does not have the
I did
most
her tax
adjusted
return, I went
numbers
to
that
the
she had
general.
given.
okay, so you're
Yeah.
looking at my
But
tax
that's-
returns, that's what you're looking at.
Is that what these numbers are?
So 23 and 24, those numbers look like those are based on my tax return.
Those
Okay,
are.
The 2025 number,
That was the internal you sent me.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that's why I was asking the question,
So-
of how far, much revenue in 25 does that number there represent? And I'm not being specific to it only because we're on camera. The world doesn't need to know what these numbers are.
yeah,
But I'm
Um,
asking because if that represents almost half a year, if we doubled that number, you see the difference it'll be between the full year 24.
so the difference here is in 2024, when did I move everything? I'm trying to think of when I moved everything over.
Yes, you're
It was
right.
last summer. So I was holding over 2 locations at the beginning of 2024. So I had, and also in 2024, I was running 3 UPK classrooms out of Ohio Street School. This school year, I'm only running 2.
Okay,
So my revenue probably will be less.
less, okay.
Yep, because of that.
Alright. But when you open this new one, you're looking to increase, when you get into this new building, you got an opportunity to add roughly, in year 1, based on the refunds for construction, but year 2 and 3 will be more indicative to what the typical
Mhm.
revenue stream.
Yep,
So in
Yep.
theory, we could kind of add that into,
yep. Now, there is an option, and I didn't put this in here because there's a lot to it. However, I have an option of turning this location into a special education toddler.
the new location?
Yes,
Okay,
into a toddler classroom.
That's,
And
I
so
hate it.
if I go that route, my income stream would be positive, plus the tax credit.
okay.
So, but I didn't put that in there because there's a lot of things you have to do in order to get that way, and I don't want you guys to think that it's gonna definitely happen, but
Well, I think in your
I have
plan, you
options.
made a notation about, is it a couple years out, you could get this accreditation? Where did I see that?
I do, accreditation is one of our goals. Yep,
Mhm.
it's different, that's different from special education.
Okay, that's in it, okay.
Yeah.
Alright. My other question is, this, you have an executive director,
Yes.
Gabrielle Baker.
Yep.
What, she's been there with you for a while, or
Yes.
what's the, okay,
She's like my, so I'm the, like, typical CEO, see the big picture, go after the dreams, like, let's cast the vision and go. she's my nitty gritty detail person. So she's the one that's, you know, she sees, she's my blind spot person.
Okay.
So yeah, no, she's really good.
So your business plan projections, year 1, year 2, and 3 are not inclusive of UPK, that's entirely
Nope,
separate.
That's all separate, yep.
I'm good with questions. And
And this is interesting to note too, because actually, like any business could do this. Like the continuity of care class, like if you, but it has to be a for-profit business, can't be for a not-for-profit. But if a for-profit business were to renovate a space in their building, they could open up a continuity of care class, infant toddler, in their building for their staff kids. So it's something like that could be beneficial for a community, and they wouldn't even have to run it, like they could contract with me, and then I staff
Okay,
it,
I see.
right? But it's
Okay.
still like, would charge them, well, this is what it costs to staff the room, whatever, they pay it, but then they can go back and get that from New York, the tax credit.
That could be a really interesting business model
Yes.
for you over time, because for an employer to try to operate and meet all the
Mhm, right.
regulations
Right.
would be catastrophe.
Yeah.
To hire, somebody who's well versed in it.
Yeah.
That's really smart.
Do a lot of the employers have knowledge that they can do that?
Probably not.
Okay.
So again, like we modeled this in our own location, like, okay,
Yep.
let's license a continuity
Yep.
care, see if it works. It does, it can work. And now we're doing it for ourselves, right? But I'm trying to educate people that they can do it. Again, it's gotta be a for-profit business. It wouldn't work for not-for-profit because of the way the tax credit works, but
Mhm.
it is a way to help with that infant toddler load that we, in our community. So, if you know of anybody that would be interested in doing
Well,
that, I would be interested in talking to them
Yeah,
too,
I can tell you,
It's
my
like
age
yes,
is
no.
gonna show here, I feel bad, my memory, because I've just spoken to somebody in the last few months that says, I'm having a hard time with employees because I have childcare need.
Yep.
They can't work for me, but if the employer knew they could do something
Yeah.
like this, that would be a way to
Yep.
attract or retain
Yep.
potential employees, yeah.
And it's cheaper for employers to pay for childcare than it is for an employee to pay for childcare. They're piloting another program that's for those employees that can't afford the DSS subsidies. It's a program where the employer pays a third, the employee pays a third, and then the state pays the other third. The other thing is, and we've had a couple businesses at one point do this with us, where we said, hey, you help pay for your employees' childcare, we'll bill you part of that bill, and at the end of the year give you the right, like, this is what you paid, and they can go after that tax credit to say that they've helped pay for their employees' childcare. And then they can work it out with their employee on the back end. Because if they're paying for the childcare and the employer can get like 50% of that back, then they can either, maybe they're not paying them as much, but they're paying for their childcare, and it's a win-win
Yeah.
for both the employee and the employer. There's a lot of ways that you can be creative to help people pay for childcare.
I think that's really smart, and employers in the past who have opened their own childcare have failed miserably, right? And they've had to shut it down after investing significant money. So this is a smart thing. We figure out how to get that word
Yeah.
out there to for-profit businesses. Because it's not, you said you talk to a random employer, it's almost every employer
No, I'm
that
trying
we
to
talk
imagine,
to. Like,
yeah.
it's a
I'm
real
imagining,
issue,
yeah.
and people are dropping out of the workforce because
Because
they
of
can't
that.
find that care.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Same here, I
Yeah.
hear that story
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
so the key is to get the word out
Yeah.
and educate people,
Yeah, super smart.
but yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So if you have any ideas of where I can go and just talk about this, I can help educate our community, but.
A marketing program.
Yeah, which is something we can talk about later.
Okay.
Yeah, does anyone else have any questions for her?
Well, Mandy, thank you for what you do.
Yeah,
I mean,
thank you.
I give you a lot of credit. I
Thank you.
couldn't handle that many kids. I
Yes.
can tell you.
Childcare it's a tough.
And you're up
industry.
early and smiling, yeah,
I mean,
that's
That's
fair.
true.
It's a tough industry to be in, and
Yeah.
honestly, you have to get creative because it's a tough industry to be in. And then you get things like, you know, the minimum wage increases every year, which of course we have to increase our tuition to even cover those costs. And then
Yeah.
New York does things like, oh, now everybody has to pay the prenatal leave for these pregnant women. And I'm not against it, but when the New York is like, nope, you've got to do this, and I employ 90% childbearing aged women,
Yeah,
it's like, well, shoot, like you can't even get a break, right? And then our stabilization grant funding from New York State was not renewed. So for the first time since COVID, basically my teachers are getting a pay cut. So it's like trying to figure out creative ways, to like fix the funding gap. And this was one of them. Bless you. And I guess I'm just lucky that, you know, a lot of other daycares are not for profit, so they don't really are not
Right.
able to go this
Right.
route.
Right.
yeah, I was just thinking that
Yeah.
when we were talking.
So, yeah, good.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, let me know if you need
Thank you.
anything else.
Yeah, we will.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have a great rest of your
You
day.
too. Yeah.
Bye.
Excuse me?
Oh, you knew the fox was gonna kind of question. I just got a couple here. We currently have exposure outdoor on the existing footprint. How much is
Do you know what that,
What's that?
what's the current outstanding balance on the other? Cause it was
Uh,
originally two,
look.
I know, I believe the original one was 221 for it, but that was, I think like 2 or 3 years ago.
We have about.
I'll just look at the amortization schedule, that should give me
Oh, yeah.
a guesstimate, cause,
And then we also have them on ACH too, so it's automatic, but.
What'd you say? Oh,
I don't
sorry.
know, I'm just,
I was-
we're at
school age.
208,000.
208?
Yeah,
Okay.
they started at 220.
That sounds about right. It's been a couple of years.
Yeah, 220.
Okay.
You said 6, so and I've got the
Yeah,
revised
so
one.
that's
That's
the
fine.
revised.
Okay.
And again, the other was a tax return, as I did have it, but I wanted to get everything out to you guys to start looking at it.
Do we know where the bank, I mean, I heard.
No, so when I'd gone over to meet with her, and I had talked to Chuck about it. And he was like, he had talked to her, but hadn't received anything, but
Okay.
then I had asked for the purchase agreement, and when I got that, she said she was sending it at that time all over, but she said Chuck hasn't gone back to her, so I don't know.
Yeah, he did.
But
I talked to him this morning.
Oh, okay,
And he said he received it last week.
yes,
And
okay.
so he hasn't had a chance to go through.
So sometimes we really just get
Yes.
swamped over there,
Yes.
so.
Now that Jeff.
But everything is obviously also contingent on the
Yeah.
appraisal and then also, WSP.
What is the building?
So,
Vacant, isn't it?
yeah, we Googled.
I googled it, it's the old Watertown Savings Bank, I believe, across from where Watertown Savings Bank is.
Was it
On
the old bank
State
building?
Street.
Oh,
I
I
didn't know.
don't know if it was, I don't know if it was the bank building, was it?
It
I think, you
used
know
to
where
be-
that new
No,
ATM
it
is?
used to be it used to be a bank.
Did it? Okay. Did you know where the new ATM is on State? It's right
Yeah,
in
right
between.
next to
Yeah.
it.
So
So it is pretty close.
So, I guess my initial question is just looking at the amount of the request and the overall exposure, are we okay with that?
yes,
Okay.
and the biggest impact, or the biggest reason, you know, yes, financially, like, we're also okay with that, but there's such a need for that. Like, my sister-in-law, when my nephew's now about to be a year old, but she had to stay home for the first 6 months because even though she tried to get daycare as soon as she was pregnant, it was 6 months until she was able to get it in. And that's very much the norm right now
For that,
yeah,
the newborn.
yeah. Like the thought of having little ones right now, daycare is the biggest.
Because the ratio, it requires fewer children per staff for the littles, right, for the real
Oh,
littles.
yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
so it
Yeah,
drives
they're
up,
almost
it
on
drives up
one-on-one
your
care,
operating
right?
costs.
And I think it's like for every adult, it's 2 infants, I believe it is,
Rather than
so 2 or
like-
3
Yeah.
versus like 6 or something
Yeah.
like that. Again, I don't really know those numbers, but, that's the biggest reason to support
Yeah.
it, is because our community needs it.
Mhm.
That's really, I didn't know about she was talking about the continuity and all of that, but I didn't realize that other portion, that for-profit businesses, so it's good to keep
Yeah,
that in mind.
there were a couple that spring to mind that several years ago tried to operate their own childcare, but it's just so costly, and if you don't know the regs and you're trying to hire staff that are qualified.
And again, that's not their expertise,
It-
their expertise is
Exactly,
their business,
it's a great
so-
thing to offer to your staff, but this is a really good model that I would think that she might be successful at if she puts that out to market.
Yeah, it's definitely something we can talk about on the platforms that we do have.
Yeah. I mean, I really, other than that, I mean, as long as we're good with the numbers on it, I mean, I think that makes, you know, she's definitely had some good experience and, you know, these are gonna see some ups and downs based on what she's going through with, staff, with, state funding, so, but she seems to be moving in the positive direction, so.
To build off Mike's question about cash, does this handicap us from further loans this year, or are we still
No,
really
so-
comfortable?
We're still pretty comfortable. Some of the ones that we're supposed to be closing still haven't. The Masonic Temple was still, I don't know when that's ever gonna close. So it's given us more time also to keep that in our
Sure.
investments and, right now, a lot of our stuff is in short term, so, and they're in the he has them in treasury, so that way if we needed to pull, we
can
could.
take them.
Because when I actually last talked to him, I said, hey, we have a potential coming up for this amount of money, and also me taking, it's given us time in our bank account to be able to pay for
Yeah,
it.
260, I think we're at.
Yeah, so we're actually really close to being able to do the Masonic out of my pocket.
Is that coming on, are we gonna be funding that in the near term?
It was supposed to be back in February.
Oh, I know, yeah.
So every time I asked, they're waiting for something, I was told June, but the Globe will be
Coming soon.
coming soon.
We did do a tour.
And electronic.
It's looking amazing.
Yeah,
And I'm sure you'd be happy to let you guys tour. But the,
We tour it all monthly.
Do ya?
the apartments, amazing.
are they done upstairs in the apartment?
Not yet, they're putting in the,
The appliances were
appliances.
coming late last week, I think, so,
Okay.
Yes,
it's getting
yeah.
Well,
the
it's just coming in
cabinets, the
July
kitchen
first there,
cabinets.
right?
So July first is when
They're
postage
like-
is
Should
theirs
be after
starts,
They're
so.
made by the
Yeah,
Amish.
that's start using them.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
nice,
super nice,
nice.
very jealous.
They'll rent your place, I'm sure.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, but I've heard the cost, so no. My mortgage is less than half that, so.
So we just need a motion to recommend this to the full board.
I'll make that motion. Send it up.
The bankers have spoken.
Well, I mean, obviously it's based on those contingencies there, and I
Yeah.
think they're gonna, you know, but,
Her borrowing relationship with the bank has been since, maybe 2016, 17, and everything's been handled as agreed, and so.
yeah.
I was saying, I think originally with us, it was like 2017 was the first loan, and she's always had a solid relationship with us, so.
Yes.
That was prior to her even going into the Ohio Street
Yeah.
location, right? Yeah. Where, was she at the, was this the one that was at the,
Planet Fitness Park, or you see the,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what plaza that
It was
is.
the
Stateway
drop-in.
Plaza?
Yes,
Drop in
Yeah,
started out.
yeah.
yeah, and then
Okay.
she sold that part.
I remember when we did that deal with it, yeah, for Ohio. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem, let's get it up there and, we've got a meeting next week.
Yep, on the